Welcome to the fourth installment of Italian Football Daily's podcast. Today I'm joined by Matt Santangelo and Michael Timineri. Alex was supposed to join us. He's missing out due to technical difficulties. He can't seem to find his earbuds. Guys that have their earbuds, how are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well over here. How you guys doing over there?
Pretty well. Pretty good.
Thanks.
How about you, Mike?
Good.
You found your earbuds in time? Was Ray Donovan?
Yeah, I found them.
No Ray Donovan this week?
No, it's finished. It's finished this week.
No wonder we're starting on
Walking
time.
Dead soon.
Walking Dead. We could go on and on about all the shows. I just finished watching Suits. Pretty decent. But lots of calcio to cover here. We have some routine wins at the top for Juve and Napoli. Hamšík notches his 100th goal. Gabbiadini gets the monkey off his back. What did you guys make of these two games?
Oh, I mean, Juve, of course, their struggles have been highlighted quite a bit, starting from that Champions League game against Sevilla a couple weeks ago. This is a game, again, of course, they were able to get the 3 points on the road, Juve were, rather. But, again, they didn't do it in convincing fashion. In fact, Alessandro even admitted that they got the result they were looking for, but it just it's not showing. The performance that they want is not showing on the field. And I definitely think they obviously had a lot of work to do. And as for Napoli, very good performance, I would say, Napoli. I mean, I think, a lot of teams or a lot of people were pegging them to, handle that midweek game, but they disappointingly drew. This was a good bounce back game for Napoli, who beat a Chievo side who's kind of in the mix for the Europa League spot. Of course, Gabbiadini gets that monkey off his back, as you mentioned. Hamšík gets that century mark goal, which is
what a player!
Which is and I'm personally just a huge fan of his. I think he's one of Napoli's crown jewels.
He's a true bandiera, Hamšík, no doubt. Important win by Napoli. In the past, we would see Napoli drop points in these games, but they handled this game perfectly as a Scudetto contender would. Chievo barely had a sniff. It was a pretty entertaining game, but at the same time, I thought Napoli handled it perfectly in the way you'd expect them to. I'm curious to see just when Maurizio Sarri starts to do some squad turnover. A lot of their new signings haven't gotten game time, but as the season progresses, I'm sure we'll see more of them. As for Juve, as you mentioned, something just didn't click. To me, it all started because Higuain and Mandzukic started up front together. Both of them demand the ball to succeed. None of them linked with each other. Even Allegri said it. They didn't play together. So there's a problem up front there. In the midfield, there was some struggles, of course. It wasn't Mario Lemina's best game at the base. Claudio Marchisio is still missing. Mike, what did you make of the two top clubs in Italy's wins this weekend?
Well, I think for Juventus, it's just winning games like they did on Saturday against Palermo. It's just the stuff of champions, really, isn't it? Grinding up results when you're not playing at your best. Last season, they didn't start well and they lost a few games. This season, they've not really performed well, but they're getting the results. And that's all that matters. And that's how you win titles. And 1-0 against Palermo, regardless, it's a win. So back to your point about Mandzukic and Higuain. They're similar players. Higuain's a selfish player. He wants the ball at all times. Mandzukic is a team player, but if he doesn't have someone like Dybala around him, you need somebody to create the chances. They're really missing Marchisio now.
I think it's starting
they've just got to grind it out. They've got to grind out results now until he's back.
I really think Marchisio's absence is starting to show in this team. It can't come soon enough. Hernanes is starting tomorrow against Dinamo Zagreb. Well, today, because it's going to come out today. Should be interesting to see the Brazilians' influence in the middle of the park. To me, Lemina is a bit too inexperienced, so we'll see how that works out for them.
Yeah.
And also Piazza, just a quick thing, Piazza makes his return. Or rather, his first game.
I was honestly surprised not to see him come on against Palermo. The game, while it wasn't secured, you'd expect a guy like Marco Piazza, who hasn't got much game time, to feature in this game, especially when creatively Juve were struggling. Allegri, to me, this season hasn't gotten much right, and Juve have just been grinding out results, as Mike said. True, it's the stuff of champions, but at the same time, this might come back to bite Juve if they don't address it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree with you.
Absolutely. For Napoli, Gabbiadini. Good to see him scoring again. Happy to see that. Great player when he's confident in front of goal. So good result for them as well.
Yeah, it's about time Gabbiadini scores. But these two games out of the big clubs in Italy weren't exactly the most entertaining one. To me, the one that got my attention the most, despite it being played at 6:30 a.m. here in the Eastern time zone, Roma-Torino, the Giallorossi lose 3-1 to Joe Hart's Torino. Or should I call them Andrea Bellotti's Torino? It was a really entertaining game. Bellotti gets 1 goal, 1 assist. And, that's it. So now Roma falter once again.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen, I'm not going to jump off the bridge just yet for Roma. I think there's still some time for them to, iron some of these kinks out that they have. But again, at the same time, like I'm on the East Coast as well, so I woke up and I had to rub my eyes quite a bit, and I saw that 3-1 Torino already beat Roma already, and I was like, wow, like I was kind of impressed with Torino because Torino have been struggling, quite a bit. They get a result here and there, but again, a lot of people pegged them to be a potential Europa League contender this year. So it was, I think it was a very good win for Mihailovic's Torino, no doubt, and especially a good performance for Joe Hart, who got some praise from the crowd for sure.
Oh yeah, we did see the banner.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
Yeah, that was some sight.
Torino fans are actually starting to warm up to Joe Hart, and that's good for his career. It was a very bold move to come to Italy, and with a bit of luck, it may prove very beneficial to the Englishman's career. But to me, the major talking point here is Andrea Bellotti. Do you guys think he's the best Italian striker at the moment?
Currently, yes. I think it's just the things that he's offering, he's providing Torino. I think a lot of these things can translate over to the national team, especially under Ventura, who knows him quite a bit from his time coaching him. Bellotti's he's showing that confidence. Again, in spurts with Palermo, we saw it quite a bit, I believe, more towards at the end of the year with Palermo, his last year with them. Mm-hmm. And then last year, of course, in the end, 2016 was the last season with Torino. Last season with Torino, he had that end of the season that was very strong, and in fact, I recall him being the top goal scorer in 2016 to date. So Bellotti's he's some player, and he's someone I definitely want to see Ventura utilize for the national team.
Well, right now he's averaging a goal every 60 minutes. Mike, I know you have a love for Balotelli, but has Bellotti surpassed Balotelli?
Not yet, but I do like what Bellotti is doing for Torino. He's such a good player. Just to watch him, he's improved a lot just this season, this year alone, actually, with his game. And I'm just wondering if Ventura does call him up next month for the game against Spain. There's another match they're playing against.
Yeah, I think he absolutely
How
has
does he fit in? I don't know. With Torino, it's a 4-3-3, 3-5-2. He needs someone. Could be Immobile up front with him, maybe, or Adair, if he does give him the start. Because he deserves to start. There's nobody out there that deserves to play more than him.
That's 100% true. I think Bellotti should be Italy's number 9 moving forward. Fitting him in the system shouldn't exactly be a problem. He has succeeded with 2 men up front. He has succeeded with just him playing. Depends what Ventura goes with in the
depends who's next to him. But Balotelli could get called up. There was some reports early in the week about him getting the call up next month. So
yeah,
let's see. It could be them 2 up front.
Maybe Bellotelli.
Okay,
it's a nice little. I can coin that one. I'll take credit.
You can see yourself out after that one, Matt. I think I'm gonna have to kick you out after that one.
Sackable offense.
Talking about Bellotti and Balotelli, a lot of Italian talent on display in Milan's draw against Fiorentina. Donnarumma, Calabria, Locatelli comes on late. It was an entertaining 0-0. What did you guys make of this result? Was it a good one from Milan's perspective, from Fiorentina's perspective, or just a game in general?
For Milan's perspective, I think it was a good point earned. I think if you ask the players and Montella specifically, I think they felt like they could have gotten the 3 points on the road, which would have been colossal for them.
Yeah.
Of course, last year that was the opening fixture for them at the Stadio Artemio Franchi. So it would have been good for Milan to get those 3 points, especially against a tough opponent like Fiorentina at home. But I think if you're Milan moving forward, you kind of see where your placement is in the table, and you understand that this is a good result for the Milan, especially when we are integrating youth, and we are still kind of working out some of the kinks that we still have. So,
yeah, no doubt. I think what was most encouraging about this game from Milan's perspective was that they ended the game with plenty of Italian youth on the pitch. Montella managed to get Milan in a respectable position in the table at the moment. If they won that game, they would have found themselves in third. However, they also have notched 3 consecutive clean sheets, a feat that they haven't repeated since 2013. I think Montella's taking this side in a positive direction, something I was skeptical about when he was hired. If he can maintain it, remains to be seen because the competitors around Milan right now probably have a better roster. It all depends on if they can maintain this consistency.
Absolutely agree with you.
Draw was a fair result, depending how you see it. I think Milan had the better of the chances, actually, against Fiorentina. I think Niang missed a great chance in the first half, back up Bonaventura in the second.
Mm-hmm.
Could have easily won that game, and especially with that call at the end of the game.
Wow.
Got the ball, apparently, according to the ref, but I don't know where he saw that, but
yeah.
It's a good point. Just in general, because Fiorentina missed a penalty in the first half as well. So, especially if we go 1-0 down, we've seen that Milan are not usually the best side to recover from a losing point. Yeah. So, it's a good point.
So we all agree that the foul at the end was in fact a foul and should have been a sending off?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I see a lot on Twitter of debate, but to me it's crystal clear. He should have been
not a penalty. Off. Absolutely not a penalty. I think the foul came out outside the box. But yeah, if you look at the replay, a couple different angles, you can clearly see that Adriano was taken down and he did not got in contact with ball. So it's a tough one for Milan again, but I think that's something to move on from and, move forward.
The other Milan team was in action, of course, against Bologna. Inter fell behind 1-0. I thought Handanovic could have done better on this. They come back to equalize 1-1. They have a goal chance through Andrea Ranocchia in the 95th minute. He heads it just wide, and by just wide, I mean handsomely wide. So Inter drop points in this one. To me, Inter really should have won this one if they wanted to stake their claim for third. However, it's not really the end of the world, is it?
No, I mean it's for Inter again. You're like I said, you're going to have every team's going to have those little things to iron out. It's still very early for De Boer especially, and the good thing for Inter is that they are Bologna is a good team. I'm not going to write them off, but again, Inter has a talent in place. They are trying to integrate Gabigol and Gianmario, who we have seen a little bit so far. Gabigol made his debut yesterday. For Inter, I think if you're a fan, you got to be a little bit optimistic from what you're seeing. Yes, there are some issues with Kondogbia in the midfield. We saw him get replaced around the 45-minute mark.
What a disaster.
He's been pretty woeful for them, and most Inter fans would definitely agree with that. But I don't think this is something I'm going to write them off for. I mean, this performance I'm going to write them off for as a third-place contender. I still think they are in a little bit of better position than Roma.
Mm-hmm. I agree there. I think Inter are right up there with Roma for third place. They probably have more of a chance to finish in third just because Roma look aside in disarray at the moment. Something's just not right there. I remember last podcast, Alex mentioned it, that Spalletti still has to get his back four in check because they did import a whole new back four in the summer. Inter, as you mentioned, Kondogbia and De Boer, right now there's some tension there. De Boer said it. I instructed him in the morning. He doesn't follow. If he doesn't follow what I say, he's getting off the field. And that only took him about a half hour to leave the pitch. To me, if Inter go into their next game and drop points again, then it starts to become a bit worrying. But at the same time, they still find themselves in third after this result. And come the end of the season, they should finish there.
It's 2 drop points. A team if you want to, you saw Roma drop points early in the morning. They need to be winning these games. I know Bologna are in a good run of form, but at home, like I said on the last podcast, they'll have one great result, and they'll go to another team. I was expecting them to lose to Empoli as a joke, but you've got to beat Bologna at home, and they shouldn't really just set the bar at Champions League. If they win, they're closer to Napoli and Juventus. So okay. I see it as 2 points dropped. If I was an Inter fan, I wouldn't be happy with a result like that. So.
No, it's definitely, if you were an Inter fan, it's definitely worrying that a game like this is a very winnable one just because you're also at home. You drop it like that. And they had chances to close this game, especially when Gabigol came on. He looked bright in spurts. So to me, it all depends on what happens moving forward in that midfield. They have some problems, especially with Jean-Marie out injured. But I think the board should find a solution easily.
The good news for Inter, though, and the good news for Inter is that even Icardi had a couple chances yesterday where he could have had added to his goal tally for the year. The good news for them is that they have the components and they have the pieces in place to eventually kill off the teams towards the end of the year. So as those guys get integrated, as everyone becomes more, for lack of a better term, one team. I think these matches, I think you'll see them get 3 points rather than one. Later in the year.
Fully agreed. Another side who won't be totally happy with the recent performances, and Mikey knows where I'm going with this, is Antonio Conte's Chelsea. They lose their second consecutive league game. First time this has happened to Conte in 7 years. Not looking good. Mike, why don't you explain what went wrong against Arsenal, who Conte fell 3-0 to?
Everything, basically. We talked about what went wrong against Liverpool and what he had to stop, having the same problems again against Arsenal. And we literally saw the same performance against Liverpool, or worse. Defensively, he continues to pick the same back four. And they struggle for pace. If you're coming up against a team like Arsenal, Iwobi, Sanchez, Ozil running around, you're just going to struggle. And it was the same problem, and the defeat to Arsenal is one of the worst defeats I've ever seen as a Chelsea fan. So wow. It was just spineless, no passion, lackluster, embarrassing. Just some of the stuff that Conte prides himself though. He wants passion from his players and his team. I just saw none of it. They gave up. They gave up after the first goal, and the players are arguing amongst each other. Courtois not just making. It doesn't seem like that player.
Courtois looks like he's lacking confidence right now in goal.
Confidence, and maybe doesn't even want to be there as well. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe you have to drop him and bring in Begovic. But I don't know, he's repeating the same mistakes for two of the biggest games we've played so far, the two big teams.
And this was a game I even watched too, and I saw a lot of things that you mentioned in last week's podcast about the overlapping runs. They didn't have that final pass to get that cross in. Costa was coming very deep into the midfield to get the ball, and he was holding the ball for it almost felt like 5-6 seconds. It was just getting smothered by the Arsenal midfielders. So when you have your guy who's supposed to be the guy pumping in goals, and he's getting the ball in the midfield, and there's no one around for him to dish the ball off to, that's a concern because you want him to be forward, and they weren't happening.
Yeah, to me, there's two major problems with Conte and Chelsea recently. Is that Marcos Alonso continues to sit on the bench, like Mike said, despite Ivanovic's clear struggles with pace. And two, he played Fabregas in this game. Fabregas is not a midfielder that you could just put on the field and not play through. Once the Spaniard is on the pitch, you have to play through him or he becomes a liability. Against Arsenal, they did not play through him, and he was just a mere passenger in this game. So if Conte really wants to play Fabregas, he must be the centerpiece of that midfield, and he must be the one that gets the ball and spreads it to your wing, spreads it to your forward. Without that, he's going to struggle because, as we saw in the game, Arsenal's forwards, Arsenal's midfielders could just stroll past that midfield with ease and then get at that aging backline.
And you're not going to let's not even try to mention the fact that Cahill had that dreadful, mishap in the back that opened the scoring for Arsenal. That's when the floodgates started to open. They gifted Arsenal a goal, and then they were already in a hole right away.
Yeah.
It's, those pacey guys, especially like Walcott and Alexis, they'll take advantage of those 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
They will.
Conte said he's losing sleep over Chelsea's poor form. Mike, just in closing on this whole Chelsea topic, how do you think Conte has to fix this moving forward, and do you think he will?
Well, we saw in the second half, he went to a back three. It was more like a 3-4-3 system, 3-4-2-1, depending how you see it. So I don't know if he was just testing something for maybe the next game going forward. Alonso came onto the pitch, went to left wing back. And Ivanovic tucked into back three with Luiz and Cahill. So we could see that in the next game. But I still don't think that's the solution. I think if you want to get the best out of the Chelsea midfield, you have to play like a 4-5-1 system. Yeah. Just change your defenders about. Bring Alonso in. Hopefully John Terry's back for the next game. And drop Ivanovic. And if you could, Cahill. Zuma should be back soon as well. So that would add much needed pace to this back four. Because we struggle when we let teams dictate the play and let them play football. Unless we're dropping deep, then we'll be fine. But we're not. We're high up the pitch, and it's just through balls are just going to be a problem for the back four.
Yeah, no doubt. I think this whole high line or dropping deep to defend was highlighted against Arsenal when you have the whole Chelsea team pushing forward, and Gary Cahill just doesn't have that pace to match with it, so then they get burned. Conte, I think, he isn't foolish to make the same mistakes over and over again. I think he'll find a solution, but it really depends on that backline. It really depends who comes back, depends who Conte decides to play, and if he's going to use Marcos Alonso.
He just needs a short-term solution to keep him going till January. Like as rumored in the media today, like he still wants to bring in signings, and the only reason that some of the players stayed is to give him another chance, like the likes of Ivanovic, Cahill. The only reason he stayed is just to give him another chance. So
for Conte's sake, I hope so.
Yeah, it's got to be fixed soon.
So that wraps up the Chelsea segment of our podcast. We feel that just because Antonio Conte is over there, we have to do them justice and cover them, especially how interesting the league's getting. But now let's move on to probably my favorite part of the episode. Champions League and Europa League previews. Juve take on Dinamo Zagreb. Napoli take on Benfica in the Champions League. Which game do you guys want to start with?
Let's
Napoli.
Let's start with Napoli, yeah.
Okay. So this one's at the San Paolo. Napoli started match day one off on the right foot with an away win. Do you think they'll continue the group stages off on the right foot and take command of this group with a win against the Portuguese outfit?
Yeah, I think if I'm correct in saying this, I think Benfica is without their striker Jonas. So obviously, when you take away one of their better players, plus you factor in Napoli playing at the San Paolo, which they are very comfortable in, I think Napoli will find the result. I'm not going to say it's going to be a walk in the park for them, but because it is the Champions League, and of course, on any given night, you can slip up or you can be matched performance-wise. So I think Napoli will wind up getting the result they're looking for. It'll be interesting to see, though, if Sarri, as you mentioned earlier, integrates some of the guys we haven't seen that much, like Raj and Diawara and those guys.
In the Champions League, though?
No, not in the Champions League. But I'm saying it'll be interesting to see if he uses him on the bench or whatever in the case the event that something happens.
Yeah, okay. That's definitely a possibility because Napoli, in recent games, they have dispatched their opponents easily in Italy, with the exception to Genoa, of course. So I'm curious to see what happens if they play Benfica and it's a stalemate and Sarri looks to his bench and he has Gabbiadini, as you mentioned, Marco Roj, or if Zielinski starts on the bench because he started on the weekend, so I would expect him to start on the bench. I'm curious to see who Sarri views as his number one option, because there's a lot of squad turnover that's about to take place.
Jorginho need a rest.
So would Diawara be that Jorginho sub for the league? Is that why they brought him in?
Potentially, yeah. I think they play a similar role, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both sit at the base of the midfield and either distribute or destroy. So yeah, I think Diawara will become an option moving forward. He was one of the most exciting talents in Italy before Napoli snapped him up. That's why I'm excited to see him play.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then moving on to the other Champions League clash, we got Juve versus Dinamo Zagreb. Marco Piazza makes his return to Croatia. Do you guys think the Bianconeri will handle their Croatian counterparts in this one?
This is a tough one because going on the road, it's never an easy thing, especially the way Juve is playing right now. I think Allegri will wind up making the right adjustments with the squad, and I think they'll wind up getting a result. I'm not going to say it's going to be in a convincing fashion, but I think Juve will wind up getting a bounce back result that'll help them also in the league play. Of course, it's going to be an interesting to see how Marco Piazza does in his return. I think that would be a nice little treat for the home crowd. Yeah, I think today in Allegri's press conference, he said that in midfield, he's going to start with Hernanes, Pjanic, and Khedira, Evra, and Dani Alves on the wings, with Higuain and Dybala up top. So to me, I'm happy to see Hernanes get the start, as I mentioned before. A guy like Lemina going away from home in the Champions League, his inexperience could have been on display there if they got to him early. Against Palermo, his passing range was just off. So despite all the hate that Hernanes gets from the Juventus fan base, I think he's underrated in his own way. He had some composure there. So I think in the midfield he got it right. I do hear that Patrice Evra is getting the start, which kind of rubs me the wrong way because
let's face it, Alexandro has been one of Juve's, if not Juve's best player to start this season, and they would really use his push down the left-hand side. So to me, I do think Juve are going to get the result. As you mentioned, whether it's in convincing fashion or not, I don't really know.
It's almost if Allegri's playing a bit cautious as well. If he's bringing Ever into this.
Yeah.
Away from home, Juventus have often struggled away from home in Europe. Not getting the wins that they need to against the smaller teams. I won't mention one of them, but we all know which team that was. But
I believe it was a team in Turkey, yeah.
Yeah. I think Juventus will grind out a win, similar to Palermo. 1-0, 2-0 will do. As long as they get a win, they can move on.
Yeah, as Matt mentioned, I'm curious to see if Marco Piazza gets some game time against his former club. It's never like Allegri to play into these storylines and give in. He has said that the Croatian will be a very important player for the club moving forward. But every time he's come onto the pitch, he's looked dangerous. So I know a lot of Juventus fans are itching to see this kid play. It would be foolish to just keep him on the bench if the side needs a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you, especially the way with Dybala's playing and struggling a little bit in league play. I think it doesn't hurt to bring a young spark into the team and see how he fares.
Yeah, I think right now Allegri did say he would stick with the 3-5-2 for the time being. So I don't think there's ever a possibility to see Piazza and Dybala on the pitch at the same time unless he goes to back four, which, as he mentioned, was unlikely. But moving forward, I really would like to see those two play together. They'd cause a lot of havoc for opposition's defenses.
Absolutely.
Moving on from the Champions League, there's a lot of Europa League action. I think, personally, and I know a lot of Calcio fans will agree with me on this one, probably the most interesting one is Sassuolo. They're taking on Belgian side Genk. The Nero Verdi started off their campaign in fantastic fashion, winning 3-1 against Athletic Bilbao, while Genk, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, lost 3-2 in match day one. Do you guys think Di Francesco's side have what it takes to go 2-0 in this one? Yeah,
I mean, I think they do. We just previously touched on the result against Bilbao, and now the score line's a little bit skewed. And if you watch the game, you'd definitely agree with that. I think they played well enough to win, but it wasn't a convincing 3-0 win as the score line makes it seem. So. Yes, Sassuolo has enough to certainly overthrow Genk and get their second straight win, but it's by no means, as we've seen with the other Italian counterparts in the Europa League, these matches are a little bit dicey.
Yeah, Italian sides, sometimes when you have them as favorites in these games, they end up losing, and when you don't have them as favorites, they end up winning. Genk have just lost this weekend 4-1 in the Belgian league, while Sassuolo just beat Udinese. So they have differing form going into this one. One would expect Genk to lose this game against Sassuolo, but it's very unpredictable in the Europa League. And I guess that's the beauty of this competition.
It's a tricky tie going away from home as well. So you never know what could happen, but I think we're hoping for Sassuolo win and for them to continue that fairy tale that they're on.
Yeah, De Frel keeps scoring for them up front in Berardi's absence. So I think that's definitely another player to keep an eye on. I know Matt's in the process of writing an article on him, so he's a bit more familiar with the striker than we are. But he's looking good right now.
Yeah, he actually absolutely is, and it's been a steady climb for him from Liga Pro, Serie B, and of course Serie A. So De Frel's rise, we're finally starting to see him come into that form that many people were shocked came out of nowhere. So the beauty for De Francesco is that, yes, the Berardi's out, but he has a guy in De Frel who's shown that he's capable to score goals and carry Sassuolo at times to wins.
Yeah, it's true. I think Sassuolo, in theory, should have enough to take this game. However, there's one problem, and Mike mentioned it. They are going away from home in Belgium, and it's never easy. Should be an interesting one. Then we got Fiorentina taking on Karabag. Obviously, we were not experts of the team that Fiorentina are taking on. We know that Fiorentina they're not in the best form going into this game. However, they still are not conceding many goals, so they should be fine. What do you guys make of this one?
This could be one of those games where it's really beneficial for a guy like Bernardeschi, who's kind of struggled a little bit, and he's kind of gotten some heat early on in the season, in Serie A action, rather. So this could be a game where, maybe Bernardeschi gets a couple goals, or he gets in a goal and assist, and he kind of gets that monkey off his back, similar to how Gabbiadini did, and he kind of starts putting together good performances for Fiorentina in Serie A. So that could be something that's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I think Bernardeschi, the problem with him is that when Buffon came out and said that he's the best Italian talent currently out there, a lot of pressure was heaped on his shoulders that he hasn't quite lived up to recently. There's no hiding it. He has struggled. Against Milan, he hasn't looked he didn't look that good, to be quite frank, and he was going up against De Sciglio, a fullback that is kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Either when he plays for Italy, he's very good. When he plays for Milan, he's either average or really good. So, to me, as you hit the nail on the head, this is a very good game for him to come in there, dictate the play, and come out there with a good performance. Whether Sousa decides to play him or not because of a squad turnover and arrest remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think with Bernardeschi's, I still don't think he suits the wing-back role. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see him play more closer to the striker instead of Ilicic. Mm-hmm. So, because as a number 10, you associate these players as more close to the striker. He's restricted side, and it's always crowded, so he has to play more, give him more of a freedom role. Everybody knows he's a great talent, and Buffon said it himself. So just let him roam around the striker, around Kalinic, or if not Kalinic, I think Babacar might start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So let's see. But I think Fiorentina will win the game.
Yeah, win. Yeah.
And you want to get your best players on the ball, and it looks like at times Bernardeschi, when he does get the ball, he's trying to force things to have an impact. So when you have a guy like Bernardeschi, who we all know is very talented and very gifted, you want him to get on the ball and to be able to kind of roam around and maybe take a shot, maybe lead someone like Kalinic on goal and get on the ball more and be more of a reference point for the attack.
Yeah, I think Mikey really raised a good point there. You have a guy like Bernardeschi, probably Fiorentina's most talented player on the ball, and he's kind of playing in the right wing-back, right mid role, reducing a lot of his influence on the game. I don't know if Sousa will ever play him that close to the striker, which is kind of worrying as an Azzurri fan. So it will be interesting to see if he adjusts. Well, he has been playing there all season and the season before that, but it will be interesting to see if he finds a way to get going from a deeper role. So I don't know if this game against Karabakh is the one to get him going, but I really hope it is because it hasn't been the best of starts for Federico.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, Azzurri fans are definitely pulling for him because obviously they know if the confidence at the club level is coming, then he'll could translate over to the Nazionale.
Yeah, and then we have two more games left in the Europa League. We got Inter taking on Sparta Prague, and we got Roma taking on Astra. Obviously not the biggest games there, but which one do you guys want to start with?
Roma?
Let's start with Roma, yeah.
Sure. Mike, take it away. What do you make of this their upcoming game? Obviously, again, we don't know much about their opponents. A game Roma should win. Do you think they'll pull it off?
Yeah, well, after the defeat to Torino, I think you might see some of the first team regulars stay in the team because they're in desperate need of win. Lack of confidence has got around the team, and they need to win, even though doesn't look like they're really interested in the Europa League.
Yeah,
they need to stick with their big guns to get them through this little rut that they're going through. And hopefully translate that into Serie A.
I loved your reaction to when I asked if they were going to – you said, yeah, and then you rethought that it was Roma you're talking about, and you're like, oh, maybe not. Because it's spot on.
That's Roma, though. That's Roma for you. Just the way 1 week they're absolutely brilliant to watch with Salah, El Shaarawy, Perotti playing their excellent football. And then the next week they just disappoint. And then, thank God I'm not a Roma fan. I'm happy with that.
I'm telling you, I think – if I ever have to describe Roma to someone who has never watched Serie A in their life, I'm just going to replay that audio clip over and over again. Matt, do you think Roma will falter against Astra, or will they take the much-needed 3 points?
I think they will find a way to get 3 points. I think the person they have the coach Spalletti, who's just a very good coach in general. I think they will find a way to get the result they're looking for, 3 points specifically, but I don't think, again, it'll be in convincing fashion. I still think they're still trying to find their way, but I think the 3 points in a game like like this could get them going like it can for so many other clubs in league play. So we'll see.
I think, like you guys have both said, in theory, this is Roma's game. These are their 3 points. Mm-hmm. They're the much better team here. When they actually get playing, a lot could happen over 90 minutes, especially in the Europa League, a competition that I don't know if Spalletti has put much weight on it, other than the fact that if you win it, you get to the Champions League the following year. To me, a lot will depend on the starting lineup. Once I see who's in there, I could say Roma will win comfortably, or I could say, okay, they're not taking this competition seriously. I think Spalletti will go, like Mike said, with most of his good players, most of his first teamers, just because it could serve as a little momentum shift if they win this one and then they start off a good run of games before the international break. But at the same time, like he said, it's Roma, so I guess we never know.
Never say never, right? Like Justin Bieber, right?
Justin, hey, he has no place in this podcast.
Hey, you guys, you're Canadian over there, Greg. So
I am Canadian, but I guess I have kind of distanced myself from the whole Bieber fever. I've never gotten Bieber fever, despite the fact that I'll go on record and say that his new stuff is not that bad.
I agree.
Oh, wow.
So that wraps up the Justin Bieber segment of the podcast. Moving on to our last game in the Europa League, Inter Sparta Prague. Again, a game that Nerazzurri should win, but it's likely that they'll field a very second or even third string lineup because of the financial fair play rules that sees them not register a lot of their new signings. You guys think they'll win this one?
Yeah,
no,
I think they win.
Oh, I like that. You have Matt saying yeah, and then Mike saying no way.
I say yes. I just think just the idea of them. I think the idea of them losing or dropping the ball for the second consecutive Europa League match against a team they should definitely handle, even with their backups.
Yeah,
I just don't see it, and it would be foolish for me to say they're not going to win. I think Inter are just too good of a team. You know, even on the bench, they have some options on the bench to use. I just finding a way to win the game. I'm not saying they're going to be convincing. If the Nerazzurri fans shouldn't, be like walking into this match and thinking it's an easy 3 points. But I think they got what it takes to find a way to get 3 points, and you just move forward. That's it.
Yeah, I think I agree in the sense that it's a game they should win. But when you have the likes of Biabiani and Palacio playing, even if it's against a side that they should beat, I don't know if it's a formality as you make it out to be. I think they will win. I'll say that much, but I don't think it will be convincing in any way. Mike, I heard you disagreeing. You said no twice before we cut you off. So why don't you see Inter winning this one? I'm curious.
Because they lost to a pub team in the first game. Smaller than Sparta Prague. Away from home, especially with a much depleted side.
Yeah.
Sparta Prague is a tricky place to go to.
No doubt.
They used to be regular in the Champions League, so... Worst, at best they'll probably get a draw. I just don't think they have
at best.
Really...
At best they'll probably get a draw. Wow. Mikey is not high on Inter's travels.
Well, just judging from the first game, I'm looking at it. I don't think they have much interest in the Europa League. They're just playing it to just play their reserves. So
I think that's fair. I think their interest this year lies on getting that third place. I think we saw it through their investment. I think we've seen it through how their players, their managers speaking. Whether they decide to pull the third stringers out against Sparta Prague away from home, we'll see what they do on Thursday. Even with their second string, they should be able to muster a result here, even if that's a draw. But I'm sticking by my guns here and saying Inter will probably win this one.
We'll see.
I agree. I think they'll win.
Yeah. Okay. The beauty of a podcast is that we could always go back and see who was right and who was wrong. I feel like last week we got some of these predictions pretty spot on.
Yeah. So we'll see. I did good last week, so I'm just saying, for the Inter fans, if you're listening, I've been on a good roll right now. So
maybe Matt's gonna double as a betting advisor. Who knows?
There you go. Who knows?
So I guess that pretty much wraps up our fourth episode. We recapped the Serie A week that was. We talked about Chelsea's struggles and Antonio Conte's lack of sleep, much to Mike's dismay. We previewed all the action in Europe from Champions League to Europa League. So, guys, anything you guys want to just say in closing?
No, I think that was it. I think, again, we're up for another good week of European play, and let's see if the Italian teams could come out on top.
Yeah. So just before we sign off, I just wanted to say a big thanks for all the support you guys have shown to our podcast. We are now either you could find us on iTunes or on YouTube at Italian Football Daily. As always, if there's any feedback, suggestions to make improvement and the like, feel free to drop us a line. We're all ears. With that being
earbuds, yeah? Improvement in the earbuds.
If anyone wants to buy Alex a pair of earbuds, I'll start a GoFundMe for you guys and be sure to link that. I'm sure we could find him a good pair for $10, if not less. We'll have to look into that front. Banter aside, for Greg, Matt, and Mike, catch you guys next time.
Ciao.
See ya.